Welcome to the Marketing Intern Spotlight. A marketing intern is a listener who's spreading our message authentically. Hear their story, their passion, and their journey. Enjoy. So you haven't been producing much songs? You haven't been singing in the shower at least? I was hoping for that response at least. Be like, yeah, I sing every day.
I mean, like, I probably do sing every day, but
Every day you sing?
I probably do sing every day, but whether it's good singing and whether I'm, keeping up the proper vocal technique and all that sort of stuff, it's mostly me just goofing around,
We're always goofing around though.
That's the name of the game. When you say you're goofing around, what's like the first song that comes to mind when you're like, all right, this is my goof around song?
Good question.
Today in the car on the way over here, I was singing Motley Crue.
Ooh,
nice.
Yeah.
The Dirt documentary really had me.
Oh, it's so good.
Mm-hmm.
Dirt is great. And who is it in there? Machine Gun Kelly is in there, and he's like the drummer. Mm-hmm. It's a good documentary. I'm kind of into those bio flicks right now. I just watched the Queen one too, and those guys are pretty. I love that bio flick.
It's very good.
Yeah.
Have you seen the greatest music documentary of all time, according to Jack Burke? The Eagles documentary?
I have seen it. Yeah. And it's kind of, I really like that documentary, not because I do like the Eagles, they're really good, but my favorite artist is Jackson Browne.
Okay.
And he's not like anything really too special, like in terms of like his musicality and stuff, but his songwriting is like bar none, like better than anything else, I think.
I know Jack Burke has had one of the best nights ever when he comes home and I hear the Eagles documentary playing at full volume at like 1:32 in the morning.
Yeah.
Like a healthy and like best night ever for Jack Burke is when he like falls asleep with frozen pizza on his plate with like a little bit of ranch, and the Eagles documentary is hitting the hour 2 mark and he's got 1 more hour to go. And like he'll wake up at 8 a.m. and grab a cup of coffee and some water. And I'll fucking finish it because that's how it works. You have to.
He loves it so much.
Oh, it is but to his point, it is the best documentary of all time. Like in terms of like music documentaries, bar none, my favorite. Mm-hmm. It's so good.
I think I heard online today, or I read online that Netflix is making socks that they can like tell when you fall asleep. I think Jack needs that for the Eagles documentary. So yeah, so he doesn't miss a second.
And for the listeners, marketing interns that are like, man, I should really watch this Eagles documentary. We've done a good job of convincing them of that.
Yeah.
It's not on Netflix anymore, so
that's
not? Tough. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Bummer.
But I do want to ask, what's going on with this sock thing? I was not aware about this.
I don't know, but I just read about it today. So
it sounds like an Onion article, but...
Yeah. Because, like, what are socks doing for your sleep,
Well,
I
think,
don't
like,
wear socks
your
in
toes, bed. Like, your toes, like, they, like, take different positions when you are, like, awake versus asleep.
Oh.
So I assume it's like that sort of a thing. Like you're always wiggling your toes. It's like human nature to like
wiggle
your toes.
But
now
again,
everyone's thinking about wiggling their toes.
Right. No, I'm wiggling my toes right now.
Yeah.
But what's the deal with
why not
with wearing
else?
socks in bed? No one's doing it. And if you're wearing socks in bed, you're canceled. You can't wear socks in bed.
So this is from a 2015 Business Insider article. So apparently this is not like super new.
This is old news.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just behind the times.
But I don't know if they were released or not, but apparently it utilizes this technology called actigraphy, which uses an accelerometer to tell when you stop moving for a while, presumably when you've fallen asleep. In a pair of stock prototype, an LED light in the cuff of the socks begins to flash red when you become immobile, letting you know it's about to pause your show. If you don't move at all, it cancels the shutdown.
Wow. Oh my god.
So I don't know if they actually ever released these.
Yeah, I don't know if it's doing too well.
It might have just been like it looks like it was kind of like a marketing ploy, like a viral marketing thing. So,
you know what's crazy though?
It caught your eye.
It caught it.
And
it worked. Now we're talking about it.
Yeah, 4 years later.
You ever think about how crazy entrepreneurship is just in general? Like that sock idea is a great example. Like some guy saw an opportunity, and we can call this opportunity anything. This guy saw socks, sleep, and Netflix all in the same sentence, and he was like telling everybody about it. It wasn't existed, and he was like, I'm buying into that. I want to do that. And people are like, you're crazy. But he's like, I want to do this. And so he does it. And like, yeah, we're all talking about it's whatever, it didn't happen. But like the fact that you have to buy into something like that as the creator, having it not being really in existence and sell it to someone is very difficult in my mind.
It's crazy that that's like how everything gets started too.
That's how everything
you
gets
just
started,
assume that it's always been there.
Yeah.
I think I have a comment on that. I think that's kind of a misconception. Not all entrepreneurship is like a brand new idea.
Yes.
A lot of the time, like, you can start your own business by yourself and have someone's already doing it, you know?
You just play copycat.
I feel like that's a lot in terms of like risk. That's a lot safer bet. Like, take a proven business model and repeat it. I feel like that's what you guys are kind of doing with your whole podcast.
What do you think we're doing? I just want to know. Like, this is a
market research.
This is a market research. I would love to hear, because you've listened to a lot of our show. Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, I think what you're doing is you are essentially building a brand and trying to build trust with a lot of different listeners who know you guys, so that eventually you can sort of have kind of ad spots on your podcast. Essentially, that would be my guess at what you do. I haven't talked to you about it, but
no, that's pretty spot on.
Yeah.
I mean, we're just trying to grow our name and the trustworthiness of that name, the credibility of that name, so that companies see it, and then also the population sees it as something entertaining. So you're spot on. Just it's an ever evolving game of like what's next.
No, it's always evolving.
Yeah, ever evolving.
It's ever evolving. Yes, absolutely. But and even to your point,
never.
Now, it's not never for sure.
Yep.
We can all agree on that.
English Andrew.
So do you guys feel like you're at the point? You guys feel like you're at the point of like starting to do that? Are you at the point where you could feel like you have a big enough trustworthiness that you can start having ads and things?
Yeah, I think we definitely have earned that. I think we definitely know that those spots are valuable to companies or brands. It's just like really trying to simplify it down to solving a problem, and is it a problem that I want to solve?
Yeah.
Right. Because we can get Joe Schmo Sock Boy coming on here and be like, hey, promote your socks, and I'll do that, dude. I have no problem with wiggling my toes on camera. However, like because we've had sponsors in the past and we've gone through it before, I'm glad we have done that, but I also want to start problem solving. I want to attack it more from that perspective, because I feel like shit when I don't provide someone else's company value. Someone's paying us to like talk about whatever company, and I'm like, that's great. I don't know if that's connecting with our listeners, this, that, and the other. Then it's like, what is he actually getting? I'd rather start with value and end with value than not do that, I guess. It's a long-winded answer, but
have the company see more return on investment versus what we were doing was just taking anyone that wanted to sponsor us and just taking their money pretty much and just being like, okay, it doesn't matter if they truly fit our brand. Yeah. And that's something and then you see them fade off because they don't see the value in return, and that's no fun for anyone.
How does something fit into your brand and something not fit into your brand? Like, I guess, what's your brand, and what is something that you would decline and say like, no, that's not really.
I would take it another direction, and I guess like our audience is people in their 20s, people navigating their 20s, trying to figure out what the hell they want to do with their life. Yeah. Right. So different people come on. They're telling their stories. You grab that one thing, put it in your back pocket, and use in your own life. So when I see that, I'm like, well, you got people in their 20s that are doing all sorts of plethora of things. So maybe it's not niche enough to like say that works. Yeah. But what has worked is like what people in their 20s are interested in. They're interested in like beer, Schwantoberfest, Oktoberfest, Bauhaus beer. They like that.
It's good beer.
They also like
great beer. Thank you, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. These are great beers. Another thing they're interested in is like fitness. That's worked really well for us as well. Yeah. Like people love going to like Alter or Lifetime or any of those places. Alchemy, the list is long. So it's basically just trying to find trends or things that people are also interested that you can associate together and do well.
Is your sales funnel? Do you have a sales funnel, or is it?
Backpocket Corp is in shambles when it comes to sales.
We give everything away for free.
Yeah, we struggle with selling, but
for events, we get people to come to our events.
We get people to come to events, and then we feel bad when we sell like things to people. So we usually
like these hats. We got 50 of them, and I think we sold 2 or 3. Sorry, those 3 people that bought them. The rest we gave them away.
We probably sold like 12 or 13. And then we had 50 shirts, and we sold some of those as well. Yeah. But we just want people to have the product, man.
Your Backpocket product.
Yeah. I mean, if you're repping it.
I think you guys, I don't know if you've ever considered this, but I think it'd be cool to like find like 20 like Minneapolis brands and like send them all out a DM on Instagram saying like, hey, we have free ads, but we have ad spots on our podcast. I don't know if you've ever thought about doing anything like that, but
so here's the thing: we thought about doing it, but we've never done it.
Because we stink at doing those things that we haven't yet done, like had the initial like, all right, we've done it type thing. For this is like this podcast, we just wanted to record all these podcasts, put them out, and have people listen to them and be like, oh, that was fun, like great podcast, and not have to worry about anything else. That's what we find all the value in. So like the making money aspect, we always struggle on following through with those things outside of events, because there's financial investment in there that we need to actually uphold. Like you don't want to go in the hole.
This is so funny actually, now really thinking about this. Like we've put a lot of time and effort and thought into who we want to have on the podcast and how we want to put that out to people. We have given a lot of thought about how to have fun doing all of that, which is why events come into play there.
And we have people like yourself on that are awesome and have like really killer stories. We care about the people that walk into this studio.
Exactly. But then on the flip side, we have not given enough thought, to your point, about how could we monetize, or how could we get other brands, companies, things on board with us.
You got to think about it. Like, so you've had this time like building your product, right?
Yes.
And your product is really your audience, right?
Yes.
And now you have to figure out how are you going to bring your audience to the marketplace, which is the local businesses. It's a B2B sale. You guys are a business, they're a business.
Wow.
So that's how I would think about it.
That's
you guys have thought about this already, but
no,
that's
no,
good.
we haven't.
So do you have availability to maybe take a part-time job? Or?
Actually, the rest of my it comes under a fee. Yeah, the rest of my advice comes under a fee.
Consultation only.
Yeah, consultation only. Yeah, I am a consultant.
Love that.
No kidding. So. You're a consultant, but you're also a singer. And you're also name's Tony Perrella. I think do we at least give him that intro yet?
I don't know if we have Tony Perrella, Tony Pepperoni.
We just dove in.
We dove in. We're here,
dude. The name on your name on my phone is Tony. I have 4 different variations of the word Tony, and that comes from Never Stop, Never Stopping, a great movie on HBO with Andy Samberg.
And the Lonely Island Boys.
And the Lonely Island Boys.
I could see you guys being a big Lonely Island fan.
Yeah, it's written all over us. Yep. Unbelievable. But, enough about us, honestly. We've spent way too much time. Probably bored. Probably everybody like, oh, we're going to listen to Tony Perrella today, and then you got this shit.
Yeah. You got the back pocket having a little therapy.
Midlife crisis.
Yeah.
You walked right into a crisis. God.
We're in shambles.
Yeah, so if you're still listening, thank you for tuning in. We got Tony Perrella live right now. Tony.
I was telling myself this is going to be the best Back Pocket podcast yet.
Yes. All right, dude. Yeah. Perfect.
Because not many of them start off on us. There's some that do, but I think that's going to lead to something great.
Yeah, and I was actually going to... I don't want to jump the gun on you guys.
Oh, no.
No. But I was going to say that was my thing that I keep in my back pocket, is like asking questions. Because I know I jumped. Is that okay?
No, do it.
Jump it, dude. This is your podcast.
But I think that like one of my best talents in life is like listening and asking questions and getting to the root of whatever, somebody's personality or problem or whatever it may be. And yeah, so I feel like it's a good way to start the podcast because it embodies who I am, asking questions and getting to know you guys and your business.
Yes.
Which is something I'm interested in.
Damn,
dude.
Yeah.
We were kind of talking off air how, we've had several conversations. We've gotten to know each other through Jack as a mutual friend and going to see you guys sing at St. Thomas. And like, I know you, but I don't know you that well. And I think that plays a role into a little bit. And a lot of the conversations we have, I don't know if I've been asking enough questions. You've been leading the conversation. I haven't gotten to know you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Did Jack recommend me for I wonder how you guys came upon me as a guest.
We knew we had to have you on our show after you took all of our money. And then ended up donating it on poker night, and then ended up donating it back into the corp.
Because we used every cent of that.
A bribe. Yeah, bribe got me on.
Yeah. Look, you paid to get on the show. We'll say it. That's what happened. If you're looking to get on the show, pay
us. Yeah. To the audience, I paid a lot too. Yeah. A lot.
So much.
Yeah, so much. You probably can't afford it, but just guess high.
Think about it. He won an entire poker night between like 8 dudes. And we played for...
They're all high rollers.
All high rollers. All high rollers. All 22 and all high rollers in the 3rd floor of this.
And I didn't need the money, so I just gave it back.
Exactly. So maybe the lesson is challenge us in poker
Yeah.
take our money and then use that money to come on the show.
There you go.
There it is. Easy. Good solution. Solution providers at the Back Pocket, dude. This is what we do. But for real, we knew you had to come on because, I mean, Jack Burke was obviously like, Tony Perrella would be a great podcast guest.
Mm-hmm.
Josiah Bardwell was like, he'd be a great podcast guest.
Mm-hmm.
And then Cavi Brennan, a great podcast guest, was
Really?
also like, Tony Perrella would be a great podcast guest.
That's so nice of them to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here you are, dude.
We've been challenged to have you on, and we followed through.
Yeah, we followed through. We do what we say a lot, but not a lot.
Not enough.
Actually, not enough. We just
Because Ty thinks we don't.
Yeah, I would say a minority of the time do you do what you say.
Oh yeah, it's true. After we did
Less
that
than
podcast,
50%.
yeah,
I've awoken something in you to realize that.
I know.
You know what you should
You
do,
don't.
Ty? You should start writing down all of their ideas.
Yeah.
we did
I
that.
don't
You
get,
do that?
I don't get paid enough for that. So, what you see is what I do. I
Yeah.
drink, I drink beers and I sit and make sure the cameras stay on.
Ty, I have to compliment you
Oh my
on
goodness.
you asked some of my favorite questions.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Do you guys get that a lot? Like Ty,
Yeah.
No.
he does a really good job following up and asking smart questions, I feel like, on the podcast.
Tony,
I agree.
Tony, you're my favorite guest. You walked in, you're like, Ty, I know so much about you. I'm like, I'm famous. I was like, I've made it, quite simply. So thank you so much. And I try my best. And if you'd like to hear more of my questions, you can tune into my podcast, How They're Here, wherever you listen to podcasts.
How they're here?
How They're Here. It's a
Is
podcast.
that like is it similar to the Back Pocket, would you say?
Well,
or
we
what's
take more
the-
of like a business angle to it. So
Okay.
interview entrepreneurs and creatives, also in the Twin Cities area, but broader Midwest area. I kind of I talk to them, try to get at their story, similar impetus of what these guys do, but
Yeah.
I take more of a business angle to it. So if that's something you're interested in, How They're Here, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Okay.
I try to take
Okay,
my
so
time.
enough of that
Attaboy.
shit.
Yeah.
Enough
Good
of
work.
that.
Good work.
I want to ask you about and you know this is a good jump, but
Mhm.
for the listeners that don't know, you're part of a family business, a
Yes.
great family business.
Mhm.
And remind me what the name was. Is it Sammy's Pizza?
Yeah, Sammy's
Okay.
Pizza. Yep.
So I'd love to hear kind of that backstory and how that's kind of influenced your come up
Sure.
and your bring up and how we've like met you and everything today.
Yeah, so Sammy's Pizza, the first location is in Hibbing, Minnesota, which is the Iron Range, northern Minnesota, and my great great grandpa Sam the First. My dad is Sam the Third.
Wow.
So Sam the First started it in Hibbing, and he was he worked in the mines and as a garbage man, and one day he gave it all up, gave up the dream being a garbage man, and started a pizza business. And from there, kind of all of his like kids sort of got into the business, and my dad is like now like a partial owner of it with his family. There's 14 locations, I think. They come and go sort of. They want some open up, some close down, but my dad manages 3 right now in Duluth, I believe. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I kind of grew up, hanging out a lot at the pizza shop, and I went to like grade school, 1st through 6th grade, literally a block away from my dad. So every day after school, I would walk down to the pizza, sit, do my homework with his employees who were like high school students or college students at the time, and spent a lot of time there making pizzas. And yeah, it was a really good upbringing. I have a lot of mentors, I feel like, from that, and kind of by default, by the way, my parents, like, because they own a restaurant, they like know a lot of people in the town. You like kind of have to.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew a lot of people by default in the town, and so it was kind of fun growing up in Duluth. No matter where I went, my parents were kind of known, so therefore I was kind of known, and was at the pizza lot. It was a really good upbringing, I thought. And yeah.
Who are some of those people that were mentors?
See, yeah, it's kind of funny because a lot of the people that were there when I was younger, like, I don't even really remember who they were because they're only there for a summer,
Yeah.
But they helped me with like my homework when I was a kid and like all this great stuff. Some really good mentors. I don't know, none.
Anybody that, like, I guess it doesn't even have to be connected to Sammy's Pizza, but
Yeah.
just like a good mentor, because like mentors are important.
Yeah, mentors are really important. I've had to have a lot of really good mentors in my family.
Okay.
My cousin, I would have to call her out. We actually work at the same company together, and she
Where's that at, real quick?
it's called Optum, and it's part of
yeah.
United Health Group.
Sure.
And she was in like actually the same program that I am currently in, like 4 or 5 years ago when it first like started up, and she like notified me about it, and I got in, and like that's like the job that I have today. So
wow,
yeah, it's kind of funny how like things come full circle with like your family and like all that sort of stuff.
Especially an Italian family, very well connected.
Oh yeah, we're well connected. All
yes,
right.
sir.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like the pizza business has like been a kind of a good segue into the real world, because like when someone like hears Sammy's and they know Sammy's and they've been there, they like get really hyped about it. Like there's this guy, Steven Juno, at work. Like he's from Brooklyn Park, north of the Twin Cities here, and he like once he heard I was like part of Sammy's, he was like instantly my best buddy. Like loves Sammy's, like loves the people there. He knows like Nick the owner and like all this like stuff. And yeah, so it's been, I mean, it's good because it kind of it's my little like pocket of fame sort of.
Oh yeah, I love that you're connected into the food world. That's similar to me. My dad started a restaurant in 1995 and had it till 2004. He had his own restaurant in his hometown.
What was it called again?
It was called D Bob's.
That's right.
And that's my grandfather's name, Donald Robert D Bob. And so I was the same situation growing up. I was in his restaurant after school all the time, just sitting there like helping out with like the dishes and doing my homework up in his office, like meeting all the employees. And similar to you, like everyone knew D Bob's, the restaurant, so therefore they knew me and they knew my dad. And I had all that same type of interaction as a small business owner. You're trying to build the relationships and you want to keep a great PR like as a business owner. So you're out there doing all these events and meeting people, and I'm holding hands 100% along the way. So
and he's kissing babies,
shaking
heads.
Yeah, I'd love to hear if you agree with me, but like I've really like learned in that whole experience how important it is to like keep a smile on your face like 100% of the time, and like be a really good listener and help people. And like customer service skills that I learned at Sammy's like help me in like my big quote unquote like corporate job nowadays. Like crazy how things come around like that.
100%. Manners is like the top thing on my like skill set. Like I feel like I have good manners, just a presence in a room, making sure everyone feels comfortable. And I do attribute that to being inside a restaurant all the time, because you're dealing with people that could be having a great day, could be having the absolute worst day, and while they're inside your environment, you need to make sure they're cared for. So spot on. I share those attributes with you.
And I did not grow like hanging out with you, Andrew, has helped me become a better person in terms of having manners. Hospitality in general is I've upgraded that ever since I've met you. So thank you. And Tony, I'm sure like you hold that same standard, which I'm sure you know I'm a little rough around the edges when it comes to that stuff. But what I want to know is, so you're at Optum now.
Yeah.
Do you have any interest in like joining the family business?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I don't know. I don't know if my coworkers are going to listen to this, but I think I'm not really like a corporate guy, I feel like. Yeah. And Optum is like
is the most
it's like
corporate.
The corporate place to work in Minnesota pretty much.
How long have you been working there for?
I just had my 1 year like a month ago or so.
Isn't that crazy?
Oh my God. Honestly, like the thing about it is once you hit like the 3-month mark, you just feel the same the entire rest of the time, I think. And it's kind of funny. Like I was talking to like all these like new hires today actually. And, you know, they're all like, you know, my credentials at like the great college I went to, but it's like, we're all the same. Like we're new in the business, and, you know,
this is it.
Yeah, this is it. Like you don't need to like.
A lot of them are Minnesota homegrown, I'm assuming.
Yeah. There's a lot of Minnesota people. There's a lot of Madison people.
Okay.
A lot of Madison, like Wisconsin people. There's a few East Coast people here and there, but that's really it. Yeah.
So when you say you're not a corporate guy, what do you mean by that? I guess what don't you like about your experience, or maybe
I don't know. I would just rather spend like every single day at my cabin, pretty much.
Ooh. Well, so would everybody else. Yeah. The cabin's fun, and it's a sharp knife because you got the dull knife of life sitting right by it.
You never know. Say that again?
You never know a sharp knife is sharp unless you have a dull knife sitting next to it.
That's funny you say that, because I was thinking about this thing today. It's called the Hedonic Treadmill. Have you ever heard of that?
No,
I have not.
So it's like no matter what happens in your life, you kind of go to this like normal level of happiness. Like you might have some really terrible event happen, but you only feel terrible for like a day or two until you get like normalized again. It's kind of like, I don't know if you're familiar with statistics, like the law of averages.
We are the law of average.
We're your wildly average podcast.
This is what we do.
Yeah, law of big numbers, law of averages. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so it's kind of like that. It's like you might live below your means or live above your means, but you're probably going to be like the same level of happiness because you're just on this hedonic treadmill that is keeping you steady Eddie, pretty much.
Okay.
And we desire that?
You don't desire anything. You just realize that your reality is the average happiness and you're averagely happy because of that. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
some people like practice on purposeful they like withhold things from their life on purpose so that they can realize actually how happy their life is. But you need to do that on like a regular basis to like actually find happiness from that, which is kind of hard.
Sure. So like kind of like a diet then.
Kind of like a diet.
Sense.
It's like kind of like a diet, yeah, in the sense that you eat like crappy food all week and then you have a big pasta meal and it's like, wow, this is good. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
But I would say a better correlation is like just living on like say like $20,000 to $30,000 a year. You're probably relatively the same amount of happiness as you are if you make over $100,000 a year. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't sound like that from you guys' perspective probably because those people like seem very happy because they have a bunch of money and nice like boats and like all this stuff, but it's not. It's just a facade, right? They're probably the same happiness as you.
Can I say that when you say you eat crappy for 6 days and then you have a nice pasta meal, that just makes me so happy. So I mean, like that's how exactly what I was thinking. A great pasta meal with maybe some raviolis and a meatball.
Yeah.
Oh man, I mean that's home. That's Mecca.
Absolutely. I this weekend I had like a long weekend. I was like painting all weekend. And after I was so beat and tired, I went for a big pasta meal, and
like
it was
painting
like
a house or what?
Yeah, I was painting a house. Yeah,
wow. Oh, your house. You have a house, right? Breaking news.
Yeah, I bought a house actually.
Holy sh!
Just pretty wild.
So is this a house for you to live in, or are you gonna become a landlord?
I'm gonna become a landlord. So kind of what the strategy is for now. I am buying it. I'm renovating it and furnishing it, and I'm going to try to do Airbnb and try to pretty much make back what I'm spending on the mortgage, hopefully plus some, on Airbnb. And the thought is like worst case scenario, like I just like pay the mortgage out of my like salary, which is like fine. I mean, it's like kind of expensive place to live.
But it doesn't make it then.
But it's like, but that's a worst case scenario, right? It's like pretty much like I'm back to like the average person, right? But best case scenario is I'm paying off my rent or mortgage and pocketing essentially the opportunity cost of not living in an apartment.
Sure. Yeah. And now I'm seeing it. So if this works, I'm assuming you're going to start buying more properties and thus have the ability to live on the lake at your cabin.
Yeah, pretty much. So I think
that's the long-term Tony.
The long-term strategy.
Good work.
The long-term strategy is like this year I buy one house. Next year, hopefully I get like a raise in every year, like I scale my income. So like this year I buy one house and I like increase like 20 grand, let's say my income. Mm-hmm. And then next year I get a raise at work and let him produce like another like 5% raise maybe. Yep. And then the following year I buy like a duplex or a quadplex or a triplex. And then therefore then scaling my income again. And then eventually, like if I want to retire, I just like sell all the houses, take like the $1 million that I get to retire and just live off that.
Of course.
And then just go to my cabin and fish all summer long.
Bingo.
Yeah.
All right. I like this plan.
This is a good plan.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny. Like people like think they just need to keep building wealth really. But really you just, if you have like $1 million, you know, the stock market, it grows at like 7% a year.
Yep.
Right.
7 years, it doubles your money.
There you go. That's true. Yeah. And so, for example, like if you have $1 million and it throws off, let's say 50,000 a year, you can like live on that 50,000, just as long as you don't touch the $1 million on top.
Right. So the idea, I mean, like, and back to your point,
mm-hmm.
Those people in this hedonic treadmill, there are the ones that live at the 20 to 30 to maybe upwards of $50,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
Like you,
I like where you're taking this,
right? You want to maintain that lifestyle, maintain that happiness, maybe get even a little happier.
Yep.
But at the same time, you're accumulating wealth for the birds at this point.
Yeah, I think that's great. So I think there's two ways you can combine those two ideas. The first way is, okay, I only need this much a year and I have this much income, and maybe I don't even need all the money that it's throwing off, so my income keeps growing, or my wealth keeps growing, my income stays the same. Or you can take it the way of, okay, so let's say I make $50,000 a year, and I only spend half of it. How long is it going to take for that money that I'm saving to pay for the savings, to pay for what I'm spending at each year, right? Yeah. And it's like actually like a pretty cool scale. So if you're at like the 50% savings mark, I think it takes about 15 years to get to that point. And if you're at like the 20% saving mark, it takes like 8 years or 7 years.
Got it.
So it's like the higher you can get your income and the lower your spending can be, the faster you can like quote unquote retire on the money that you're saving.
Got it. What is retirement though at this point?
What is retirement?
Do you think by the time we're 60 that retirement will be like a normal thing? Because the reason I'm saying this is because we had like Famous Dave, we've had Steve Schussler, these like millionaire entrepreneurs who are like, retirement's bullshit. It's not a real thing.
I really think that they should expand the working life in both directions, really. So when you're younger, when you're in high school, how cool it would be if you could take a year off in between your years and like shift where your trajectory is in high school and then college and where you're educating yourself. And then when you're older, you can kind of do the same thing. Like you'll have all this experience and you can essentially take it to like a less manual labor job, more cerebral. Maybe you're like a professor or you're teaching or something like that. Something that's still making you money. Maybe it's, if you don't need the money, maybe you can work part-time if you're retired or something like that. I think you should I think that's definitely going to happen though in our lifetime.
Yeah.
The working years will be expanded in both directions.
Yeah, I like that too because Tim Ferriss talks about it, actually. I don't know if you read Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week.
I haven't read it, but I've listened to his podcast.
Okay, so he talks about these ideas of mini retirements, and it's these 3-month time blocks where he would leave and go somewhere to basically like hit a reset. Essentially, he would go to like Thailand and then like travel around all of Southeast Asia and like start learning new things and just different opportunities and whatnot. And he used that as like his reset to kind of shift perspective or widen his perspective. So it's very similar to what you're saying because he's able to take those mini retirements, just for context, because he's gone through this whole thing of what's the first one? Design what you want to do, eliminate the things that you don't want to do, automate what you're wanting to do you can build the income and liberate yourself and go on these mini retirements, broaden your perspective, and recreate deal.
I like
That's what he calls them. It's crazy.
I love it.
It's freaking nuts, but I love your plan.
Yeah. What I do love about like kind of like what our age group is thinking about right now, and I see a lot of this in my friends as well, is whatever job they're doing right now, they're looking at other ways to make income. So they're not relying on this one thing to just continue to grab promotions and pay raises and work with inside this one tunnel, where I don't know if this is generically or generally correct, but I feel like in previous generations, that was kind of the norm, was to just grow within your one lane and become the best at that. And now today's day and age, there's a lot of tasting and testing and trying to grow in multiple avenues to have a little bit more happiness in different areas.
Yeah, I think you make a really, really good point. And I think this kind of revolves around the idea that our generation is very risk averse. And
what does averse mean, real quick?
They don't like risk. They want to be as safe as possible, right?
So we want it to be as low risk
as possible. Yeah. So,
and that's our generation, you're saying?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And so the reason that would be a really risk averse move is because, so I work at United Health Group, right? Say United Health Group takes a big shit and all of a sudden it's not a company anymore and I lose my job. It's really smart of me to have a second source of income like my home and my Airbnb/renter business to supplement that income once that company crashes. And it's kind of the same thing. Maybe Airbnb doesn't exist someday. Thank God I have my job at Optum to like keep that going for me, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the diverse. That's what
Would you argue though that taking a job at a big company that probably won't go anywhere, like an Optum, would be risk averse and just sticking with that and not having to do anything else?
I mean, it depends on how you look at it. I mean, anything is possible in today's stock market and in the world, and you don't really know.
I'm not denying that. I'm just that was a question I had.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, and I think that's kind of the traditional wisdom. But there's kind of another way to look at it, and I think you guys are doing a great job with it with this podcast, actually. There's also kind of a risk of not making money and not taking a risk when you're young. So, for example, like, if you guys say you didn't start this podcast and you just kind of worked your regular 9-to-5 job, whatever, you get X amount of dollars, but you might spend a little bit on this podcast, and you have this potential for, like, hey, maybe like this huge wealth, every podcast we're getting like $10,000 ad spots. Like, there's like a risk that you're kind of mitigating of like being an average person for spending like you're risking like a little bit of your time for like this huge amount of wealth. So it's like, in a way, that is like sort of being risk averse, not liking risk.
Yes.
Did I explain that?
No, you did. You did a great job of that, because I think more people are doing that. Yeah. I think more people are willing to put time and maybe money into a higher risky thing that they like to do.
Yeah, totally.
So and like, it's not risky for them at that time.
At that time at all, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's not risky at all for Andrew and I to do this podcast, right? Is there a lot of risk in it?
Cancel culture could get us.
Cancel culture.
We're always aware of cancel culture.
We have put out over 200 episodes of an hour of Andrew and I talking. That could get us canceled at some point. Yeah. Absolutely, not denying that. Maybe there is risk involved, but the idea of like going back to like my weird thing about entrepreneurship is like, you can take those risks in those little jobs, like starting your own like nutrition company, or like Austin Yoakum starting his own gym. Like the more he got vested in it, the more he invested money and time and effort, and now that's his job. Like, sure, that could be viewed as risk, but really, like, when you first start, like, what is it really? It's an idea.
Oh, and you have your entire life to recover if it's a bad decision.
Right. Exactly. And I think something that is similar to how we grew up with family-owned businesses. At that time, you could really only reach those people in your town. And especially with the restaurant industry, food in particular, you can only reach the people in your town. Now there's these many ways to market and ship and sell products that you can be global if you really wanted to, and work in Duluth, Minnesota, and be a global brand out of your house. And that wasn't something that was possible. And now, like, having that, and that doesn't even need to be your main thing. You can be a global brand selling T-shirts, one-off T-shirts, and be making a good lump of money. And that is your side hustle. So, like, that is the coolest thing that we have the ability to see and to grasp and to follow through with. And you're doing it in real estate. We're doing it in the podcast industry. And there's so many other people that are just slowly tapping into things that are less risky to them right now because they have something stable. Yeah. And it's sweet that we get to talk to each other and vibe off each other and grow.
And like highlight that, amplify it all.
Because it's a lot of hard work.
It is a lot of work.
Even if it is not that risky for you to buy this investment.
I mean, it's pretty risky. Like, it's like, you're risking.
There you go.
Like,
it is getting risky now.
For me, I like put like several $1,000s like into a home. You know what I mean? Like, that's definitely risk. But, you know, hopefully I can like double my money like in the next year. Like, that would be like
that's insane.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of, there's a benefit to it, right? I didn't make like a dumb decision. Like, it's a calculated decision, right? It's like kind of what I was saying earlier. It's like, it's not like this is a new idea, a new business. Like, I found this online, like some other people have done it. And so I'm like exactly copying like their business model, you know?
Sure. Yes. So, that was like going to be my next question is, where did you find the idea, or why do you want to pursue this whole idea?
Well,
can you bring the mic a little closer, Ben?
Yeah, sorry.
There you go.
Yeah, so anyways, okay, so like a year and a half ago, I got a temp job over J-term at St. Thomas.
This is the final semester, senior year.
Final semester, senior year. I didn't have a J-term, so I was like, I gotta find something to do, make a little extra cash, and so I did like a temp job, which was a great, super fun experience. And I listened to like a podcast the entire time. I was like sending out mail for like tax season or something like that.
There you go.
A lot of paper cuts. And I was listening to this podcast that my like cousin-in-law recommended to me called Bigger Pockets, which probably is what took your like I don't know,
our SEO.
Yeah, exactly.
Our SEO's gone because of that.
Bigger Pockets, man.
God damn.
Yeah.
I don't even know about the podcast. They've been stealing our shit for 2 years. Oh well. Anyways, Bigger Pockets, great podcast.
Anyways, have you ever listened to their podcast?
No, I've heard of it though.
Yeah,
I've actually heard of it. Yeah,
and it's like probably like the premier like real estate investing like podcast, and like I just like listen to you guys, and they're kind of like hype men. You know how like some people are like that, and it like got me really pumped, and like pretty much I got thinking about it for like probably a year and a half, and just like super into it, and then I bought a house, and now I got it. And I also got into kind of through that whole podcast, they're like connected to like this guy online. He has a blog called Mr. Money Mustache. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's pretty much like a personal finance blog, and it's about this guy who like pretty much everything that I've been talking about like risk and like living on a low budge and having a high income and like eventually retiring. It's like pretty much like he was like one of like the pioneers of that like whole movement in America, which is pretty big actually, pretty big movement. But
when did that start?
When did he start
that
the blog?
the whole thing?
Would he just start his blog?
Yeah,
he started it in 2012. He was like a tech worker in like California or something like that, or maybe it was Colorado, and he was making good income, like probably like $100K a year, and he like only lived on like $20K. 30K, 20.
How did you do that?
Well, he doesn't have a car. He like buys like only like $50 worth of groceries every week. Keeps his expenses really low. Yeah. So if you look at American expenses in America today, about 68% of it is spent on.
Why not 69, dude?
Yeah,
just make it 69, so everyone can have some fun.
69% of it is spent on transportation, food, and housing.
Okay.
So it's like 40% housing, 20% whatever.
Yeah.
And so
I see that maybe even mine's probably higher than that.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you live frugally in the other parts of your life, probably.
Mm-hmm. I don't buy a lot of clothes or other gifts or anything. It's a lot of food. Food is and rent.
Food and rent, yeah. And probably your car. I don't know if you have car payments, but like...
Car payments, yeah. Student loans, car payments.
Yeah. And so, if I look at like my own situation, I can cut off probably like 40% of my monthly expenses by like buying my own home and renting it out. So pretty much I'm making an extra like $1,000 a month by just not making it. I'm saving $1,000 a month.
Exactly. You're breaking even and potentially making money on it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's hell of a lot easier to cut an expense than it is to like make an extra dollar, which is a concept a lot of people don't think about. And plus you get taxed on all the income that you make. So you really have to make like $1.20 to make $1, because 20 cents is going to the government, or 30 cents or whatever is going straight to the government.
Mm-hmm. Whoa. Man, this is exactly the conversation I needed right now.
Yeah, the pocketbook isn't too big these days.
No, I could spend I could buy all kinds of shit, and it's not gonna make any dents in my bank account. However,
not to brag,
but like I mean I put a lot into my savings. I for some reason have life insurance, and there's all kinds of stuff that I got going on.
He has the premium life insurance.
I have permanent, not premium.
That's
permanent.
Right.
Yeah, and that's
it's an asset.
It's an asset. Yeah. Exactly. And I got like over $1,000 in cannabis. That's fun too. And that's not a lot. That's not a flex either. But my point is like, my point,
can you put that on the podcast?
I can do whatever I want on this shit. This is mine. This is ours. We can cut it. I don't know. It stays. How come I can't tell people I invest in cannabis stocks? Of course, that's a great thing.
All right. Yeah. It's expanding for sure.
Yeah. But anyways,
Illinois 2020 legal weed.
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
If anyone's looking for marijuana.
Yeah.
January 1,
January 1, 2020.
Hit up Andy.
Very close.
I did not say that. I did not say that.
Ty's eyes lit up.
Me.
Yeah, Ty's eyes lit up.
It's not legal here, so no.
I have a family member who's on medical marijuana, actually.
Wow.
Seeing benefits?
Changed her life, actually.
Whoa.
Like, she has really terrible disease. Has to do with, like, her, like, intestines and stuff. They're, dying and pretty much dying. And, like, literally, like, the medical marijuana, cannabis or whatever, has, like, 180, like, made her feel, like, a million times better. Wow. Which is, like, great.
No, that's awesome.
I don't know how it works. I have no idea. That's, like, the one healthcare topic, like, I don't know anything about.
Yeah. No, we don't know it either, but
UHG
we always
doesn't support?
I don't know. I don't think they include it. It probably depends on what
branch you're in,
line of business. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're like a commercial product, so if it's like through like a company, or if it's through the government, I don't think the government supports it. So probably only works if you're like through a business. How it works in healthcare is like United Health Group, or not United Health Group, Target will hire United Health Group to like facilitate, do like the operations of a healthcare business, and they'll just own their own healthcare business, and it'll be like through your employer. That makes sense?
Yeah.
So they can like set the parameters, whether they want cannabis on their like payable list or not. So
gotcha.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they'll probably upcharge you if you do, or something along those lines. Potentially, allegedly.
Well,
we don't have the answers.
Yeah, we don't have the answers. It depends. It all depends.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyways,
I love that.
What I was saying.
Oh yeah, back to Decky making bags.
It has nothing to do with that. But like the idea is, I'm putting more into my savings now because I eventually would want to have like the stability of just like leaving my job and doing something else totally, and giving myself a time frame to do it in. So if I can save what I'm saving now for till the time of like, let's say next March or something like that, I will then have an entire year of baseline costs, including student loans, for an entire year.
Yeah.
Right?
True. Yeah.
So now we're talking about risk aversion again. What's the difference between, quitting your job now and going 5 months, or waiting, keep working, and quitting your job in March or April or May and having a year?
I don't know.
That's how I see it, at least.
I think how you should look at it is how much do you need to live on? You probably need like $30,000 to live on. Let's just say 30. If every month, if you had $3,000 or let's say $2,000 in your pocket, immediately into your day one of the month, $2,000 into your bank account, probably could live on that, right?
Yes.
So that's
maybe a little more, but still.
So that's like, let's say 25,000, right?
Yeah.
You could just multiply that number by 25, and then that's your like financial independence number. Pretty much what it's called.
Wait, hold on. Multiply 25,000 by 25.
Yeah.
And that's my financial independence
number. Yeah.
So what does that get me?
Gets you like, wait, what is your FI number?
So the FI number is what? I don't know what that is.
It's like that's how much money it will throw off every year for you to live on. So
interesting.
Yeah. So if you have like, have you heard this?
No, I've never heard of this. Yeah, let's just do the math real quick.
Why do you multiply it by 25?
Because it's like 4%. Usually it throws off 4%.
625,000.
Yeah.
And you did 25 because 2,000 times 4, 12 months.
It throws off 4%. So if you have $100,000, it'll throw off $4,000 a year on average.
What do you mean by throw off?
It'll create $4,000 of interest for you to use.
Oh, through just assets?
Through like stocks and stuff like that.
Yeah, okay.
Like index fund investing is what it's called.
Got it.
Yeah.
So I would have to be invested in something.
You have to be invested in something that creates money. Yeah. So either a business of your own,
that's a good
or
point.
real estate, or an index fund, or a stock that pays dividends.
Okay, so how would you balance that with, like, say you're running your own business, but then you also have assets elsewhere? Do you rely on those assets elsewhere to get your 4%?
It has to be money producing.
Has to be money producing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but like the idea is, why would you like keep your money in something that isn't producing money?
Yes.
Why would you have cash? Because it doesn't make money for you. You got to have all of your dollars working for you.
Well, you could buy like a URL and just be wait until that. Like I buy TonyPerrella.com.
Yeah.
And
when I make it big, I want that.
And then you got to come to me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, you got to come to the Backpocket. It's like, how the hell did Backpocket just buy 200 URLs? It's like, we planned this.
How about Brandon Verdick talking about hand mod or wrist modeling? Was that the same? That was the same podcast, right?
Yeah.
He was a hand model.
What a hell of a start of a podcast, by the way.
The first like 15 minutes for him talking about how it was a wrist. He was a wrist model.
Wrist
model. Yeah. The upside down watch was a good touch.
Mm-hmm.
His podcast was awesome.
He was a good dude.
Yeah, what'd you think about that? Because that was like a real big switch up for Andrew and I to
do like a
documentarian.
Yeah, he's kind of had
on homelessness, and
he had like a really interesting kind of weird vibe about him. He would like take pauses in between some words or whatever. I was like, this guy is thinking. He was thinking. I wonder what his face looked like over here. Did he have his eyes closed or?
No, he just maintained this like slight lean.
No,
back.
there was a time where he was sitting there for like legitimately 30 seconds with his eyes closed. I'm like,
yes,
we're losing him. Like, what's that? Like, where is he off to?
He's pretty interesting. But I have, since I listened to that one, he since I've listened to that one, I've like told that story about like the 10th wall or whatever it's called.
The wall, yeah.
Nice.
The wall, like several times, like how those people like live there. And the mayor made that announcement, and then all of a sudden everyone was there. It's like people are drawn to that. Like
I told a ton of people too. It's so interesting, and people didn't know about it either. Like they didn't know that it had happened.
I like vaguely in my like vaguely remember that, but
you didn't know the extent of like it was crazy.
No. Yeah. Well, homelessness is like really bad in like any city, and it's just not. It's tough to deal with that.
Right, but to have it like so, like it was such an event to have happen. It was, and I watched the documentary too, and it was like really.
I haven't seen the documentary, so I can't comment on that.
But I don't know where can normal people see it.
That's the thing. Like he hasn't, so he's holding on to it. This is like really bad podcasting, and for Andrew and I in general, like have the guy on when he releases it to the public, but. He's holding on to it for like the music or video film festival.
Yeah. If it's on YouTube, you lose the rights to being incorporated into the film festivals.
Yeah, so he's holding on to it until he gets through the festival season, and then he'll release it to everybody. So
and he gave us like the snippet of it to see.
Oh. He let us see it. So I mean, maybe
sneak peek.
Yeah, we could send you the link.
Yeah,
it's just a private link.
It's just a private. Yeah.
We should just be sending out the link.
Well, I want to talk to him about it. He'll be fine with it.
Yeah.
But so you watched the whole thing then?
Yeah, it was killer. It was like for being made on his phone. I thought like it was just really raw and like impactful.
It was pretty good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I had no idea it was shot on his phone until afterwards.
Yeah,
like, I would never have guessed that it was shot on his phone.
Really?
Well, it was.
Yeah.
It was just such like an impactful like story and like message that it didn't matter how it was shot or like what it was like. There was background. Like if you look at from an objective cinematography angle, you'd probably be like, it wasn't really well made, but the story and the content was so ridiculously impactful that it was like. It could have been shot on potato and it would have still been like effective, you know?
Yeah, totally.
He picked the right people to have the conversations with too from like the start.
That's the most important part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He
it
like
blew me away. You're just guessing at that point because you have no idea who these people are.
No,
he just found the right people that stuck around and then didn't have the great life experiences. Had a couple good breaks. It was
there's an arc to it, which was I think important. It wasn't just one person, the next person, the next person. It was a character development,
and that's good editing. Like. He's just a straight up good editor then.
Yes. And this was his first one that he said he put together. First documentary.
All on his phone, which was like he dropped that at the very end of the podcast. Like, what I learned today. Like, I have these fun experiences. I filmed this whole documentary on my phone. And we're like, what?
Yeah.
Your phone? That's insane.
He said most of it was raw on his phone. Like he said he eventually got a microphone to like plug into it. But most of it was just like whip it out of your pocket and shoot.
Yeah.
That's what you got to do. The mobile workplace, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Blows my mind.
I also liked his thing on like Japan or whatever. China thing.
How great was that?
We had no idea what any of that was, but before the conversation too.
Oh my god!
He brought that book and set it on the table. It was like a encyclopedia.
Yeah, it's right there if you can see it. It's like that thick one that looks like a fourth grade history book.
Oh,
from the side, it's got a lot of good content in there.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Just like a fourth grade history.
A lot of good content. Yeah.
But it's funny because. I mean, like I had said earlier, I think like we're coming to the end of our third season or whatever, and like Brandon is like a great example of like a typical Monday night for Andrew and I. Like we have someone walk on our door that we've never met before. We exchange like 1 or 2 emails with him. We like know his story, and we spend probably an hour or more beforehand preparing for this person. And then you show up, and you talk to him, and you leave just shocked for the most part and very excited. But like for Brandon specifically, it was so different for us because we had watched this whole documentary. Like we were very vested in his story, and it was just like I was exhausted. I was like mentally exhausted listening to all these homeless people tell their story, essentially just raw as hell, which is to Ty's point. I mean, it was nuts. It was very nuts. And then when he comes on, and the first thing I say, "What's the craziest idea you've ever pursued?" And then we go on this 25-minute tangent about him going to Japan, which is, in my perspective, is entirely worth it.
Yeah.
Just to kind of understand him. But it's fun, man. It's crazy. Blows my mind.
We have a lot of fun on these Monday nights.
Yeah, it's insane.
It's insane, and we always stay consistent, though. We always finish each interview, each conversation with the same way. We already touched on it a little bit. Mm-hmm. We did What's in Your Back Pocket, so thank you.
We didn't do it.
Tony let himself in there.
Tony did it.
You asked questions.
Obviously, I came prepared.
You did. Yeah. You asked questions. It's a phenomenal way to start this podcast because now the people that came to the Back Pocket for the first time because they know Tony, they got 15 minutes as the podcast got flowing of who the Backpocket's about, which is cool.
Yeah.
Not many podcasts are set up that way.
Yeah.
But how we finish it is with average qualities, because Deck and I are wildly average individuals that do some things well and some things not so well. At the end of the day, we have many wildly average attributes. So, Tony, what is your wildly average quality?
Yes. So I've done a good amount of thinking on this topic, and I think that my average quality is reading books, because I'm a pretty average. I'm not very good at reading in general.
What would you say your reading level is in terms of like a grade?
Definitely in high school for sure.
So like a 10th grade reading level?
Probably like a 10th grade reading level.
Sorry, that might be selling you short. That's like
it's not great. It's not great. It's
Frankenstein it is like 4th grade reading level or 10th grade, which that's hard.
He had that Abby normal brain.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
He had that Abby normal brain. But yeah, I don't know. My reading is not good, so I'll like be motivated to read a book, and I'll go and I'll buy it and I'll like have it in hand. I'll be so pumped and I'll like read the first chapter and it'll take me like a week and a half, and then I'll just be so bored about it. And then halfway through the book, I like quit reading it. It's not fun anymore.
Do you get to the 100-page mark?
I probably get to like about the 100-page mark and then quit. Yeah.
I'm notorious for getting to 100 pages and being just forgetting about it and then picking up the next book.
I don't know if you're the same way, but I have a lot of like self-help books.
Yes.
Like not self-help, but like
Those are the ones.
professional business type of books. And they like for half of those, like you can get the idea like in the first chapter.
They get really hyper-focused as the book gets going. So it's like I don't need that much detail on how to be trustworthy.
Right. Could be
Something
a one
like that.
page.
Yes.
Could be one page and be totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So maybe it's the root. Maybe your average quality is rooted in
The books you're picking out.
yes.
We need to get you some storytelling books, some character arcs.
I think that might be like my bridge into like actual reading of books is like not reading professional books or whatever.
Right.
Reading
Well,
just fun books.
I mean, professional for one thing, but just like, what are you interested in? Like, what do you want to read about?
Yeah.
Sure, if it's that business stuff, like you already talked about listening to podcasts. You already talked about, these different resources that you're tapping into to fill that void yourself.
Yeah.
The book, reading about it, you're like, I already saw something on trustworthiness. I don't need to read a million pages on it. So maybe you tap into something totally different.
I think that's a good idea. Have you guys ever asked yourself if you were to go back to college and like study a different subject just for fun, not because you're an engineer and you make a bunch of money being an engineer, like just because it's for fun,
just because you're interested,
just because you wanted to go back and take a bunch of classes on that subject?
Yeah, yes, to an extent.
Yeah.
With having Alex Corswell on the podcast, who's studying to be a psychologist, and then Dr. Coach John Tower on the podcast.
Yeah.
Both those guys are people in psychology. That's something that like when I'm having that conversation, I'm very engaged to the max. Like I'm hyper focused, listening to every detail, and feel like I want to learn more. Keep talking about it, and I want to go back and take classes on that. Psychology. Yeah.
I would say, I'm right up there with Andrew. But my favorite class that I ever took at St. Thomas was with Dr. Zoltan Naj. He was the history class with the world since the 1900s. My favorite class ever. I feel like if I went back and just became a historian and studied history for X amount of years, I feel like that'd be so cool. Like if you knew more about the world that we live in today and the history behind it, how much would that impact the decisions you make going forward?
Oh, I totally agree. I think I have to go with Deck's reasoning here. I would definitely take history as well.
You would?
But the reading, I don't know if I could do the reading.
Audiobooks, man.
There you go, audiobooks.
You love podcasts, we'll just feed them audio version only. I'll read the books out loud to you.
There we go.
That? Even though I'm not very good at reading either.
So
can you imagine an audiobook of Andrew just being like
stumbling over words?
Just like, and you'd be listening, be like, dude, what's going on with this guy?
The really long words, like I look up and hey, how do you pronounce this?
Oh, that's too funny.
I'm sweating just thinking about it.
Yeah, God. Sounds like a potential way to make money. Yeah. We could just be audiobook narrators. So dumb. But anyways, so history.
Yeah, but on the audiobook thing, Octavia Spencer, she's an actress. She's like black and she's like kind of those like eyes. She's got eyes. She's kind of short.
And she has eyes and she's black. Sick.
And she got her start as like the audiobook reader for The Help, the book The Help.
Gotcha. Oh yeah.
Yep.
And she like
is she the actress in The Help?
She's in The Help, yeah.
Okay, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And she's like now she's like a huge star. And she got her start like reading in the audiobook The Help.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
It's very cool. But so you're just going off that though, like what kind of if you were to like pick up a book and really be interested in it just because of the topic, what would that be?
Oh no, man, I don't know.
Let's start here.
I just got this is kind of topical. I just got this is still a business book sort of. I just got the Guide to Real Estate Investing for
Grant Cardone.
From it's not Grant Cardone, but that guy is pretty hilarious.
Yeah. 10x and everything.
Yeah, but it's through Bigger Pockets, and I just got it. I'm gonna start reading it.
Okay, we'll see. Well, if that book sticks, then you'll hammer that one out. Yeah, and then you're gonna move on to Decky's recommendations because I feel like he's got one ready for you. He's been trying to lead himself into one.
No, I haven't been leaning into nothing. I did kind of lean because I wanted to see what he was interested in. But what are your thoughts on like, if I were to give you book A and it's nonfiction, or book B it's fiction, what would you choose right there?
I think I would probably say I have to do a nonfiction book.
Nonfiction.
Yeah, I don't think I could read something fantasy.
Okay, and you said you liked history.
I do like history.
If you were to go back and do one thing, it'd be history.
I definitely would.
Okay, and these guys are gonna all freaking
I already said it.
You know who would be cool to read a book on? And I just saw a book on him. The Leonardo da Vinci book.
Ooh.
Just like all of his inventions and like
That'd be sick.
what he kind of did, I think would be really interesting. He talks about, I just went to an exhibit at the Children's Science Museum in St. Paul like a few weeks ago, and it was like with Leonardo da Vinci, and they talked about like this dynamic about how of a lot of like the biggest inventions in like the Earth's history have pretty much been like a product of war. It's really super cool and interesting. Like, so they have Galileo, he like discovered like the moon goes around the sun and the earth, or the moon goes around the earth and the earth
discovered
goes around,
orbit.
the orbit and all that stuff. And he pretty much, the only reason he like got to finance those big telescopes out into the heavens was because ships needed telescopes to see land like 10 miles away.
And they needed to know about stars because he was one of the guys who figured out where the North Star was. And
have you heard this before?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It's very cool. And like another guy like Neil deGrasse Tyson, he always says like astrophysicists are a product of the natural technology that we have today. And the only reason that we ever had that was because of like the Cold War. And so he draws all these different things back. But yeah, I mean, it's very true. Very true. But a book that I would recommend to you, 2 books. The first one is Shoe Dog. I am over 100 pages into that, and I will finish it. Andrew's already finished it.
It's one of the books that I have finished.
Yeah,
I liked it.
Phil Knight. It's his story of Phil Knight.
Simple.
Yeah.
It's freaking awesome. I would highly recommend that. And if you really want to get like super nitty gritty and historian type, I would recommend Sapiens. Homo Sapiens by Yuval Harari. Yeah,
really?
These guys have heard me.
Is it like a science book or what is it?
It's like 3-part saga on humans.
On the entire human race, on like how we went from basically Neanderthal chimpanzees to the most dominant species in the world.
Like in terms of like Darwin's theory of evolution?
Touches on that, but it goes through the evolution at the very beginning, but then he unpacks it from like the start of evolution and then all the way to pretty much the current day and like why we are who we are today.
What's the author's background?
He is an Israeli professor of history. Okay. And he's like world known. He's given all kinds of TED Talks and stuff, and he's written 3 books now. So he spent the last 20-ish years writing these books. And the first one is what I explained, like the last 10,000 years of humans, how we became what we are today. Yeah. The second book is knowing what we know, where are we going for the next 1,000 years. It's called Homo Deus. And then the last one is here we are now in the 21st century. 21 tips for the 21st century.
So where are we going?
Well, I mean, where we're going is he thinks that we're going to create technology that can enable us to live as long as we want.
Choose to live.
And we can choose everything. So all the way down to the specific gene that allows you to be the best version of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So we get rid of all these defects and we become like purely human, essentially.
Or purely inhuman.
Or purely inhuman, exactly, to your point. And the idea is like it can get out of hand very fast. And so he kind of plays through a couple different scenarios. You walk through the whole thing, and then he brings it right back to normal in the third book, which is very cool. So I've driven a lot. Like, that is probably the coolest thing that I've done this year, is read all 3 of those books.
That is very cool.
It's cool to me. It's not cool to anybody else probably, but I would highly recommend Sapiens to start. It's a good one.
Do you think AI is going to like take over the world?
It's not going to take over the world. It's only going to influence the efficiency of our world. So it's going to create, I think if it's not handled appropriately, I think it's going to create a gap in society where people can pay and have access to more information, which means more data, which means better decisions than the people who don't have it. Think about Mark Zuckerberg as a person and what he has access to versus what Backpocket has as a person or a human, as what in terms of data. And if we had the data that Mark Zuckerberg does in any decision that we make for the next 10 years versus what we have, there's really no comparison, right? Because we're using Facebook to do all the things that we're doing.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where this gap is being developed and is growing, is the more technologies that come from the data that to make these like quote unquote best decisions.
Yeah.
That's where I get worried. Because it's all privatized.
Yeah.
Google's the biggest freaking company in the world pretty much, and they're totally private.
Yeah.
Right? What's the government going to do about it? You can't really regulate that kind of stuff. So
they try to, right?
Yeah. So that's where to dive into the rabbit hole. That's where I'm at.
What do you think? Do you think the human mind is like a computer? What do you think about the difference between a human mind and a computer is? Do they address that in the book at all?
Okay. Yeah. This is like a whole podcast. To put it simply, we haven't been able to map the human brain yet. There's not enough physical data to hold on to that our brain has.
We're too focused on dreams. All of the science goes to looking at dreams. You see all these documentaries on like latest dreams, like how are these people dreaming?
Yeah.
There's this latest one on Netflix that just came out. I was like, why are we focusing on dream? Let's cure cancer.
Let's focus on the now.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that is like the thing to the book, is like you dive so far into something that's not even really in existence. And it's great and all. It's very fun to like dive into that reality. But dude, the anxiety you get from that sometimes is just like, wow.
Mm-hmm. And it's not our reality to dive into.
But what is our reality to dive into right now? And you already asked this, or we already asked you this, or you addressed it, which is in your back pocket. So we'll move on to the next question, which is a challenge. So challenge is, how we have you on this podcast, right? Josiah,
Jack
Burke,
Cabby
Brennan all challenge us to have you on the show. Here you are. Who do you challenge us to get on the show next?
Well, I want to challenge you guys to, number one, do some sales for yourselves.
Yeah, we should do that. Yeah.
And I think...
So you're challenging us to sell ourselves.
To sell yourselves, yeah.
All right, we can do that.
I have a few ideas.
Okay.
I don't know. You guys don't really talk politics on your show at all.
We've had Karen Housley on our show.
We talked to her about breastfeeding.
Yeah, we didn't do politics really.
Yeah.
You want us to talk about politics?
Are you guys not into politics?
So the original conception of the Backpocket was over politics. During the election year, we were going to do a politic podcast, and we just quickly realized, A, we're not very knowledgeable about this, and B, our parents were like, or specifically Declan's mom was like, don't do that because it's not going to end well. So we backed it. But let's see if we can accept this challenge. Lead us down your rabbit hole, Tony.
No, I was gonna say I'm pretty good friends with Walter Mondale, who is he's like a vice president of the United States, and he lives in Minneapolis here.
What?
Yeah. And I was like,
you're so gotta get him on.
I mean, he's on like a million podcasts and stuff.
So
we'll sell out. I was like, dude, these guys, send him an email. He'll go on. He's like my friend. He's like a pretty good friend of mine.
Oh,
yeah,
easy.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Easy peasy. So that's
all right. So tell us more about this guy, though. I just want to like
and how you're pretty good friends with the former vice president. Of the United States.
Who is he the vice president under? I'm bad at this.
Jimmy Carter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah. So he had one term and then he ran again. Well, I don't know. Anyways, he is from Minnesota, right? He's from like southern Minnesota, but like my family, like I said this earlier, like everyone kind of knows us up north, and so he actually owned a hunting cabin with like my great grandpa.
Oh.
And they were all up. They all like lived like up north over the summer and like went hunting, deer hunting, and grouse hunting together. And now we go on like a Canadian fishing trip every year together in June for like a week.
Wow.
And I hang out with them and we do crossword puzzles together and go fishing pretty much. It's pretty fun.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
That would quietly be your biggest guest of all time. Former vice president of the United States.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
our in. That's
So
our into
I have
politics.
an idea. That's probably like the highest order.
Okay.
I have a few more. I think, okay, so I just bought a house, right?
Mm-hmm.
My like realtor guy, his name is Alex Boylan. He's like one of the nicest guys, let me tell you. He's kind of like this like fast talking like guy, you know?
Real slick.
He's slick. He's like,
but he's nice.
He's cool. He's so nice. He like totally like helped me through like the process and like made it like as easy as possible. And he's just like a great guy. And I don't know. I'd love to like, I think it'd be great like promotion for him, honestly, because like people our age, like this is like a time when we're like going through that part of our life, and like maybe like on a podcast, listening to someone that has that kind of occupation that's going, maybe can help like 20-some-year-olds with a big life decision like that.
Right on.
Which I think would be kind of cool.
Okay.
I like that.
And then another guy that I think would be really cool to have on the podcast. I have two more.
Okay.
Another one. You can feel free to cut all this.
No.
Keep it going. Keep it going.
We don't cut a damn thing.
Another guy that I think would be a cool to have on the podcast. His name's Brian Cruikshank, and he was my like St. Thomas mentor for like through like the mentorship like program at St. Thomas.
Yeah.
And he ended up being like from Duluth, Minnesota, and he like knows my dad, and he like knows some of like my friends essentially in Duluth, and like we had this like uncanny connection. But he went to St. Thomas and he was like a marketing major, and once he graduated from St. Thomas, he like grew a marketing company and eventually sold it.
Wow.
I don't know exactly what it is, but now he works and he's like an executive at another marketing company in the Twin Cities. And essentially what it sounds like to me that he does is he works with companies like Optum, for example, and he'll say, okay, you have this like product, quote unquote, that you're trying to sell or market to people over the age of 65, Medicare patients. He'll go out to a community, survey those people, and come back with like a very like detailed response and recommendations on how to pursue these type of clients. And so like that's essentially what his like current business is. I think it's a pretty large business actually. I think it's like a national business, maybe global. I don't know. But
he knows a lot about people then, because he's doing all these surveys and stuff.
Yeah, he knows a lot about people. He's a really interesting guy. He's so easy, so nice.
Maybe he can do market research on us because we need it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hire him out. Probably not, but
He'll have come on the show and he'll just know by how we talk.
yeah, maybe it'll be some like pro bono work in addition to the pro bono work that he's doing to just come on the podcast to begin with.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what was I get? Brian Cruikshanks?
Cruikshank, yeah.
Cruikshank.
Yeah.
Cruikshank.
Okay.
From Duluth. Good
Got
guy.
it.
From Duluth. All right.
Got it.
Awesome.
And then,
fourth person?
And then the fourth person is this guy that I met through work. And his name's Jake Robley. And he is like, I don't know, he's very like quirky. Like he's just like, and he's had like the most interesting life. I feel like that one of the most interesting lives that you've had like on the podcast, honestly. He's 26. He works at Optum. He went to Madison. He took like a gap year and like went to Ghana and like worked with like poor people in Ghana. And he like is like an extreme like activist, and he like is very about like different marginalized people's like rights and like that sort of thing. It might be it's kind of like not necessarily like the whole vein of your podcast, but I think it might be a really cool and interesting thing to like broaden the minds of your listeners, like to talk to this kid. He's just like he's just like really cool and interesting guy. So I'll send him a text and see if it works out. But
sweet, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone's ever challenged us with 4 people.
We got to get them all now.
And now I'm excited to go after all 4.
Including a vice president.
Yeah.
That is.
Yeah, where do we start? I
Yeah.
feel like we got to start with the vice president, right? Just hit it in order. I like that.
I can't make any promises, obviously.
No.
We don't want promises.
Yeah, but
we just want challenges.
yeah, but feel free to like, use my name obviously with all
Yeah,
those
we'll drop the
people,
hell out of your name, dude. And we're gonna
not a bad name.
Good name.
It's a great name.
Great name.
It's a great name.
Well, we started this podcast with questions, so I don't know if you've used all of them, but we'd like to open up this opportunity for you to ask us questions.
Yeah. I guess so. I have a question for you. So if I'm a listener of yours, obviously. You're a marketing intern.
There you go.
You are.
Yeah, and I was wondering, what is the compensation for bringing in an ad deal to the Backpocket?
What's part of the package of being a sponsor?
Yeah, like what if I emailed a big company and like brought in like a $4,000 ad spot on your podcast? Like, what do you think? Like, I could join the Backpocket team maybe on the sales team maybe. I'm just saying, like,
there's great packages that come with that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good rewards.
Is it like a hat? Is it
oh
like
shit, dude, more than a hat.
Is it some stock in the company?
Bro, you could get some I'm not going to guarantee you stock, but I'm going to guarantee you stock.
Dude, we can't just say that out loud.
But
we'll cut that out. Yeah. He doesn't get fucking stock. What do you mean, dude? You don't get stock? This is us. No, I'm just kidding.
Publicly traded.
No,
but I'm just saying.
That's
like,
a great. I didn't even think about that. That's a great idea. Like you would basically make like a cut or whatever the negotiated thing would be for making the connection.
Yeah. For example, like what if like you have, I know I'm making I don't know what's the legality of like on the web or whatever. Like what if like Alex comes on, he's part of Hedonic Realty, and Hedonic Realty makes like a $4,000 payment to your ad payment to your podcast or something like that. I feel like it's pretty like it wouldn't be that big of a lift to like do something like that.
No, you're absolutely right. Especially
I don't know.
You'd make something off that. Yes.
Yeah, you absolutely would.
All right. That might be a
you get commission. Commission's the word,
future
right?
business proposition for you guys. We might have to talk about that.
Okay.
That's a great idea.
Let's do it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right on. Good question.
Oh, I guess. Well, so I mean,
you just squealed that out of us pretty much.
Yeah,
you're sitting over there, 2 arms back, leaning. You got a beer in us.
You just, dude. You
this
literally
whole
look
time
like
you
you just.
Yeah, I know. I wined and dined him.
You wined and dined us.
He wasn't even asking for a commission. You guys were like, "Yeah, you can have a commission.
You can have whatever you want. You want stock? You can have a company."
Yeah, Andrew offered him stock, commission.
Never negotiate against yourself. You guys negotiated me right up. I started with a hat. You guys pushed me on that. I started with a hat, and you guys are like, "A hat? We'll give you commission." Like,
no. We didn't say commission. We went right to stock.
Stock in the company. Yeah.
You can have everything.
Dude, this is funny.
Do you want to own us?
Yeah, you can just freaking take it over. It's whatever. Just let us
just do this.
Let us just record and pay our rent. We'll figure it out.
I'm just grinding your gears.
Yeah. No, that's freaking awesome. But you do look like a guy who was just like, yeah, I just made a sick deal. So congrats to you, buddy.
Yeah, the dominance pose.
Yeah, that's fun. That is very fun to watch. But great question. And I just love what I've loved the most about this podcast and you is like you are tapping into, like, if you think about it, like left brain, right brain in terms of like podcasting, like you're tapping into the other side of the brain of Backpocket that really needs more time, to be honest. Like
the sales part of Backpocket.
The sales part about we don't sell ourselves enough, which is like a thing to say for sure. Like we just don't like. I mean, we're so. I mean, selling ourselves, I guess, is like us filming it and
we talk about it.
but we
don't
never
actually do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, you guys have done so much legwork over the last amount of years that it's really incredible, and you too. I mean, like, I guess I don't really know what you do, honestly. But
dude, quote of the day, damn, dude.
Tony, you're looking at it.
Yeah. This is what he does, dude.
That's good fun.
But like, I feel like doing that would be super easy because you guys have a really good brand, and like, I mean, no offense, but like, you might get like laughed out the door one time, but like if it means you make $5,000 on the next sale, like that's great. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like, I don't know. You have like numbers, right? I listened to your one with Molly, right? You guys send you like have like over like 1,500 roughly on every like post you do to Instagram. Like that's like pretty decent. Like I feel like if you just drop stats like that, don't even say the Backpocket, just say like, hey, your market and your stats, send in a DM to like a big company. Definitely like 1,000 views. That's a lot.
Yeah.
In my mind, I don't know anything about marketing really, but
it's a sharp knife in the butter knife, though, right?
It's a sharp knife in the butter knife.
And if you frickin' show them what the sharp knife is and what the butter knife is in their niche market,
you gotta sell it like that, though.
Exactly.
You gotta sell it like, hey, I got the sharp knife in my back pocket.
And you've been using a butter knife the whole time.
And I'm just here to murder. No, you're not.
No,
not at all.
But that wraps us up to our final question.
Absolutely.
Last question, simple question. What did you learn today from the moment that you woke up to when we're having this conversation?
Can I say 2 things?
You absolutely
can. Of course, dude. Say all the things.
You're a man of many things.
Okay, so the first thing I want to say is I read an article today at work, and it was about about birthing centers or whatever, and like the mortality rates at birthing centers. And I learned that like 1/3 of the deaths from like having a baby or whatever happens like before the birth. 1/3 happens like a week between like when the birth happens and like a week after that, and then another one happens like a year from a week to a year. So I was like, that kind of like blew my mind that like that many people like die from like having a baby in like the United States of America, and it's like the most rich country in the entire world. Like still, all these people are like dying from like such like a human natural thing. I don't know.
Damn.
It's like crazy. It was super sad.
It is crazy.
But I have another thing I want to say. Do you have a question on that or anything?
No.
I'm just shocked.
It was like shocking. Yeah. And I think it's like 700 people a year like die from that, which is like a lot of people, I think.
It is.
For like such a like simple thing that probably happens like 100 times every day in every hospital across the world. It's like, you should be better at that, I think. And and they were talking about, in this article, they were talking about C-sections, you know?
Yeah.
And they have like statistics that show that only about 10 to 15% of births should be C-sections, but through claims data, like when a hospital reports a cost to a payer or an insurance company, like it's about 30% of them.
Whoa.
So and double, and it's like a more invasive procedure. So they like cut up in their like whole belly essentially to like get like the baby out of there. It's kind of gross, but like it's like very invasive, and they're doing 30%, which is like double what they probably should be doing. Which is like just to bill a higher rate.
Sure. Yeah, I was gonna ask how much that subjectivity is behind the 15.
I think
because isn't it a judgment call
on whether you should do it or not?
Yeah.
I didn't look into how they determined the 15.
I don't think Decky has either.
No, I haven't either. But I guess I'm just curious on the subjectivity of like what that call would look like. You know, because if it's very black and white at an earlier stage where it's like, oh yeah, at this point, like we're gonna have to go for it with the C-section, you know.
Yeah.
When if they had waited maybe 5 minutes later or had risked more to see.
You're talking like the day of.
Yeah, I'm talking birthday.
I feel like most C-sections are planned not day of. It's planned like months in advance. Like, hey, this baby has XYZ characteristic, and so we're gonna give them a C-section because it's if there's going to be an issue, like it's like spun around the wrong way or something like that. I don't actually know how it works, but
neither do I. A lot of assumptions here.
A lot of assumptions.
We gotta
keep
look
into it. Look into it. And okay, then the second thing that I want to say is, so I have to preface this one. I mean, you can maybe cut it or not, but
we never cut it.
Not asking us to cut.
We're not cutting shit.
But
you're killing it.
Not even the part about the C-section. We're not cutting that shit.
Okay. So the second thing that I wanted to say is I have a little mentee that I mentor. He's like an underprivileged child, and it's through like the Big Brothers Big Sisters program. A little plug for the Big Brothers Big Sisters program. Go out and do it. It's life changing. And he's African American, and I take him like all the time to go get haircuts because his mom asked me to like take him to go get haircuts, and like I have no idea what to say, right? And I've like become like pretty good friends with this African American guy at work, this black guy at work, and I was like, he got a haircut today. I was like, I love your haircut. How do you get that? What do you say to get that haircut? Because I would have no idea what to say. And he goes, oh yeah, I get a brush fade. I was like, that's what Siam is getting a brush fade every time from now on. Because every time I was like, give him a fade. I don't know. Like that's like all that I know. Mm-hmm. It's like, give him a brush fade. He'll look great. I'm like,
yeah. Dude, that's awesome.
That's one big thing I learned today. And it's going to come in handy.
It is I'm not going to need it.
You're not going to
myself.
You're not going to need it.
For myself.
No.
But it's good language to have.
Yeah.
Because
how else would I have known that though?
No,
you know what I mean? So I think it was good. It was good. And now he's going to look a lot better. So it's doing good in the world, I feel like.
It is.
Yeah. Dude, you're doing good in the world. I freaking love that, man. It's phenomenal, and that's what made this podcast special, because you're making a difference out there, brother. Come on.
It is what it is. We all do good in our own ways. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You guys, I'm sure you could do a lot of really good things for people just through this podcast and like giving people some airtime, making them feel good about themselves, making them feel special. So we all do good things in the world like that. So
we're all just having fun. Tony, thank you so much for taking your time out of your day, bringing some Schwantober beer to us. Schwantober Fest.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no problem.
Awesome stuff, Tony. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Coast in my heart, right where I'm meant to from the start. It's so much warmer than the secrets you've been holding in. And don't you look at me sideways with those eyes.